Hi guys, today we're going to be changing the rocker cover gasket on the Mini Cooper RS. Hi guys, today we're going to be changing the rocker cover gasket on the Mini Cooper S R53. It's quite a simple job, it's just more time consuming, taking all this stuff off at the top and all the coil packs and everything. If you want to see how to do it, stay tuned and I'll see you very shortly. Okay, so welcome back. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're doing quite a lot of videos now on the Minis, so if you want to see more of that, make sure you check out the rest of our videos. So the first thing we're going to do is just take the engine cover off. It's a T30 Torx bit. And the next step, we need to take the intercooler off. So we need to take both the clamps off from both sides that go on the boost pipes that run into the intercooler. So all of these bolts on the clamps are the same as the engine cover of the T30 Torx drive. So the clamps in two pieces. Just take the top bits off once you've taken the bolts out. Same on this side. Bolts out. Top of the clamps off. Just be careful because these clamps underneath can end up falling down, but put them out like that. So the next step, you've got these two brackets here. You don't need to take all four bolts off. If you just take the right one off on both of them, then you can just swing the bracket round. So these two bolts here are 10mm. The one on this side is a 10mm as well, and this one is an 8mm, so it's the same as the ones that are on the brackets on the other side. So you just release the pressure on the left one, you've already removed the right bit, and you can just swing the bracket round. Like that, and then it's out the way. You haven't got to remove both the brackets. So everything's out the way now, all the brackets are out the way. The next step is to remove the intercooler. There's no real right way of doing it, just ease it up slowly. Start on one side, then release the other. If you just hold that boot on there, it will hold these two brackets in, and then you can just slide those out. You don't end up losing them. Okay, so the intercooler is now off. Just remove your boots on both sides, and then you've got this bracket here needs to come off, and this bracket under here. So you've got two 8mm bolts just in there, and you've got two just down there, and there's also one right at the back. It's quite a bit of a pain in the arse to get to. So it's easier if you've got one of these slimline sockets. It's going to be a lot easier to get down there. It's quite tight down that little gap there. And then with this one, just push that wire just slightly out of the way, just so you can get the socket over the head. Just be careful when you're removing these bolts, because you might fall down into the engine. One. So I would advise taking the front one off and then just loosen the back one off while you're holding the bracket, so you don't end up losing that. And then once the bolt's free, just pull that cable out of the way. Like that, but you've still got the bolt in there, so you don't end up losing it in the engine. And then just remove the bracket like that, and then the bolt can come out. So the next step is to remove these bolts on this side, on this bracket. The top one's obviously quite easy to get to. And then this one at the back, you've got, again, this cable's in the way, so just push it with your thumb. Just get the socket down in that little gap. And you can start getting that bolt off. You might find it easier just to get a little spanner in there for this back one. So the first bolt's out. You just put your hand around underneath the bracket like that. You can get your finger around the back and then your thumb on here, just to wind those last couple of turns off so you don't end up losing the bolt in again. Obviously we must have lost a bolt last time, but there's supposed to be a bolt that goes into there, which will be the third bolt that holds it in, but we've only got the two on there. So the next step is just to take the HT leads out where the spark plugs go. They just pop out like that. This is actually the MSD Coil pack, which we've already done a video on, so if you want to see that, make sure you check that out.
We'll link it down below.
Just need to give them a wiggle and they just pop out like that. It's going to be easier to get to the bolts down the back with the rocker cover. If you can see, obviously these leads are in the way, so just pop these off at the back and just put them to one side. These ones at the front don't need to come out, so you can just leave them on. So again, to be able to get to the bolts easier at the back, this plug needs to come off, which is just to the coil pack. So just get a pair of pliers, just use this little stem there just to pop that little clip in like that, and then just release it on the other side. And that plug just needs a little wiggle and then that comes out as well. Put that over to one side. So the coil pack doesn't actually need to be removed, and neither does the spark plugs. So you just need to take the HT leads out just so it's out of the way, and then obviously you need to remove them at the back anyway. So the next step now, I'm just going to remove this pipe here and this pipe here. So just get a pair of pliers, clamp it over the clip. Pull it back like that so there's no pressure on it. Maybe quite tight, so again if you've got some pliers. So you're just using the actual rocker cover with the pliers and then just literally pry it off like that. And pull that out of the way a little bit. And then the other side, I think this is a 21mm, but we haven't actually got a spanner of that in the toolkit. So just use the pliers, just be gentle because the actual nut itself is plastic. You just need to chew it up with your pliers if you're using pliers. And it just comes out like that. So the only other thing now, apart from the actual bolts that go into the rocker cover that are going to be in the way, it's just these two cables here. So I just literally pop them out that little clip. And it just pops off like that, just goes over that stud that's in there. So before we go to the next step, if you see now, all the studs and the nuts that we've got are all stainless steel. If it's the first time that you've done the rocker cover gasket and it's never been done from factory, all these nuts and all the studs and everything are going to be rusted, they're going to be seized on, it's going to be quite a nightmare. The way that we did it in the end the first time was to get a 7mm socket and basically just hammer it over there, especially on these stud ones. It took, to do this next stage for us last time, was about an hour and a half just to get the studs off to actually get the rocker cover out. I would advise when you're doing this to order these stainless steel studs and nuts and everything. You can buy it as a kit, we're going to put that in the link down below as well. It's just going to make it a lot easier, and obviously the reason for changing the rocker cover gasket is a common fault down the back here, is the gasket ends up perishing and then all the oil starts coming out the back of the rocker cover gasket and going down the back of the engine, and you get a burning oil smell. So that's probably the reason why you're doing this in the first place. So I would advise when you change the gasket just to put these new studs and bolts and everything on there when you're doing it. So you got studs, which are, with this one is a 10mm socket. I'm pretty sure the old ones were 10mm as well. And then you've got the 6mm Allen key, 5mm Allen key, 5mm Allen key. So we're going to start with the studs and just get all those off first. Wish it was this easy the first time.
The reason we're actually changing this for a second time is because the first time I originally bought it off of eBay, which was fine on my blue Mini because it was just a standard Cooper S, but I think because this is a John Cooper Works, it didn't fit the first time. I've still got the oil leak down the back of the engine, so I've actually gone with getting the original part from BMW this time, which was £27. So I know it's slightly more pricey than obviously buying it off of eBay, because I think they're about 16 quid off of eBay, so it's about a tenner cheaper. However, I'm not doing this a third time, so I've just bit the bullet, went to BMW, paid the 27 quid, and hopefully this will do the trick. So I don't know, you know, and like I said, it was fine on the blue one, wasn't it? There was no issues on the blue car.
No.
It was just a standard swap, so.
So the other thing when you're doing these studs as well, these studs have actually got a thread underneath that go into the bottom of the engine. So as you're doing this one, the nut may come off at the top, or if you look around the back, as I've loosened this stud off, the thread has come off on the bottom instead. So it may come out on the nut, or the stud may come out like that. But either way, it doesn't matter, as long as they come out, you can always sort it out afterwards. So when you're taking these bolts out, you've also got the washer underneath, and then what's underneath that, which goes into the actual rocker cover, is like a little clip where the bolt goes through, and then this will sit inside. So as you're taking it off, this may come out on the bolt, or it may not, so it will still be in the engine like that one if you look down there. So just be wary if you're taking it out, that might fall down in the back of the engine. Right, so all the bolts are out, all the nuts are off, so just give it a little wiggle. Could be a little bit tight as you're doing it, and that's rocker cover gasket off. So you can see all down the back here, there's obviously oil sitting there. That's where the gasket obviously wasn't a very tight fit, but it's gone all the way around the front as well. It's also good to just check over this chain here, you've got the guide down at the back and the tensioner down there as well. This can eventually go, which it did on the blue one, and that's what didn't go on the blue one, did it?
Yeah, on the way to work. The crank pulley went.
Yeah, that was the crank pulley, not the belt tensioner. No, the chain tensioner, I mean. Chain tensioner different for the belt.
No, that didn't go.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was
don't
on
jinx me now.
It was on Phil's car.
Well, don't fucking jinx mine.
Anyway, the chain does normally go after about 100 to 120 miles roughly. So just check everything over, just make sure everything looks like it's not been chewed up or anything like that.
Chris and Aidan tightened it on the blue Mini,
yeah,
to make sure it was fine, but this one hasn't been checked.
No.
So thanks for that.
Well, there's no play in the chain, so the guide and the tensioner all look fine. So we're just going to clean the surface where the gasket's going to sit all the way around to get a good scrub. It shouldn't really be any kind of grime on it, just excess oil really. Just go all the way around the edge. Then we're going to do the same on the actual rocker cover itself. You're just basically doing this so you get a good purchase when you put the new gasket on. So you may not, or may not have seen in the last clip that this O-ring had actually come off and it was sitting on the spark plug tube. You normally get these in the kit when you buy the rocker cover gasket. They're quite a pain to get out. You just need to basically put a screwdriver in on the underside. So as you're looking at it from the top, you can just see it in there. So you'll just be getting a screwdriver and just go all the way around and then just pop the ring out like that.
It does not just pop out like that, by the way. It's really fucking awful to do. So please don't be under any illusion that that is going to happen. You might be lucky, but we weren't. So just prepare yourself.
But again, you just want to go around, just get rid of all the oil on the outside so you get a good purchase on the inside like that. So now I'm just going to take the old gasket off. And then just go again all the way around where the grooves are and just get rid of all the excess oil that's sitting in there. When you're looking at the old one, there's not much difference in it, but this feels a lot stiffer, a lot firmer. This one, the new one, feels a lot softer, but you're going to start, if you look around on one side you've got this ridge here, so just make sure that this is lined up to fit over there, and then just use that as your starting point, and you're just going to go all the way around. Just take your time and just press it into this ridge that goes all around the rocker cover. Just make sure you're not bending it out of shape as you're doing it, make sure it sits how it's supposed to sit, otherwise it will just leak again. So just one last look at the cams, because obviously they're very nice to look at. I'm just going to pull this tube out of the way, make sure this one's out of the way as well, and then just very gently slide the cover back down, try not to disturb the gasket underneath. Just make sure where the spark plug tubes go, that they're all lining up with the O-ring gaskets. Don't be too forceful, just gently wiggle it so it all fits nicely. So that's back on. Now we're just going to put everything back the way that we did it, but obviously in reverse. So we're just going to start with putting these two tubes in first before we do all the bolts. Just wind it in gently because it's plastic, so you don't want to end up cross-threading it. Just wind it in finger tight, and then just get your spanner or your pliers, however you took it off. Doesn't need to be mega tight. And then the same with this hose. Make sure it's all the way on. It should basically underneath nip up with the bottom of the rocker cover. And then we're just going to get this clip, release the pressure, and then that's that back on. So before you start tightening anything down, just go around with all the bolts and just start to hand tighten them to make sure all the threads around are in line with each other. So start with that first. You'll feel the thread start to bite, you'll know it's in the right place. If it's not, just give it a little wiggle like that, and then the thread will start going in.
Do a little wiggling today.
Don't forget to put your washers on as well as you're doing it, in case it did come off. So again, just remember where you put your studs and not your nuts and your bolts. So this one here, which is the front left, is a stud, and then front right is a stud as well, and then the back on the right is a stud as well. They all pretty much do the same job. It's just some, like the one at the back here, one of the cables clips onto it. So it's just more like to hold the wires around the engine. So just bear in mind when you're doing these studs back up, after looking online, it says that they're only supposed to be going up to 12 Newton meters of torque, which if you don't have a torque wrench isn't very much at all. You're literally just taking the pressure on and then just nipping it up slightly. You don't want to go overkill. I think it would look better if you were further away.
No, it doesn't, because I can't see what the fuck you're doing. I'm just about to see is this. Like, even now, like, it ain't filming you.
You don't need to see, like, individually. Like, it looked better when I had the camera over there and I was doing it from further away.
It doesn't. Right.
So you get your little clip again. That's why the studs needs to be in this place. Just need to wiggle it down. Wiggle, wiggle. That cable goes on that one. This goes over the top, back into there, and that one clips in like that. So obviously we're putting the HT leads back on now. So obviously it's 1, 2, 3, 4. If you've got the original coil pack, it will have the numbers on there anyway. But if you have the MSD one and you've forgotten which ones, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically going in an anti-clockwise manner. It's best to start off with number 2. Just looks tidier. Just pop it in until you feel it clip. And then hook that under there. You can hear the little click on there as well. Then you get your number 1. Again, clip it in. And then you hear that click. Just makes it neater. It doesn't really matter which way you do it, but that just looks neater the way you're doing it. Click your number 3 and your number 4 in. Do your 4 first. That goes round the back like that. You can hear that click. And then tuck that tube in. Number 3 comes round. And you can hear that click in there as well. Again, you can do that the other way around, but it just looks neater. I'm doing it 2, 1, 4, 3. Make sure they're all clicked in. If you put them in the wrong order anyway, as soon as you start the engine up, it's going to be misfiring, so you know you just have to change the leads around, so just double check it before you do it. When you put all the bolts in around the outsides as well, just double check all of those as well. If you're doing this side and then do this side, this will need tightening again, so if you do it in a loop all the way around and then double check it all again, just make sure they're all tight. So we're just plugging in the coil pack again. So you just push it on, you'll feel it click. The little red tab might be putting up a little bit of a fight, so just get a pair of pliers and just hook it underneath the actual HT lead and just click it in like that. So then this little black clip goes over this stud here, just holds that cable in place. Again, that's another reason why there's a stud there on that corner. So the next step, we're just putting these brackets back on now. I'll probably just remove that top one actually. So I hope you're enjoying this video so far. If you are, make sure you give it a like, give it a thumbs up and a subscribe. We've got a few more videos that we are planning to do in the next few days, few weeks. We've got a track day booked on the 4th of December? 5th December.
Oh, I don't know, whatever the Sunday is of that weekend.
So obviously the rocker cover gasket was a priority to do that. We've had a few requests now to do the gearbox mount, which we've had sitting in our garage for...
Garage? Shed?
Shed.
I ordered it at the same time as I ordered this one here.
Upper right engine mount.
But yeah, we just haven't got around to fitting it yet. I've got a list of things that need doing. on this car just to get it even slightly ready to be able to do a track day again. So we do listen, and we do really appreciate obviously the comments and the interaction that we do get on the channel. We do listen, and we have got some really cool videos coming up. It's just time. Obviously we both work full time as well, so just fitting it all in. But thank you, we do appreciate it.
The main other thing we've got to do before the track day, obviously if it doesn't get cancelled because of the lockdown going further, is the PBS Pro Race pads for the front, and then you've got some Hell brake lines, braided lines that are being made to order at the moment, so that's going to be another video that we need to do before the track day. And then this bracket again just slides under like that. Line the bolt holes up.
Oh, I was showing them it right.
So the next stage we're going to the intercooler. So the boots just go back on over the horn on each side. Obviously the left side's bigger and the right side's smaller. You'll know that when you try and put them on, because they won't fit properly anyway. So then when you've got these brackets, you've got to be mindful that the thread obviously goes on the flat side, so you can see where the head of the bolt that goes through was on there before anyway, and the other side is just normal. So when you're doing it, the flat side will be going on the top, so then this side that's got the flat side goes underneath like that. So just put these in place now, it'll be a lot easier. You can kind of wiggle them around and get them underneath afterwards, but it's just better to do it beforehand. Obviously the small side, you've got more room around here, so you don't need to do that beforehand, just on the bigger side. So as you're looking at the intercooler itself, got the 4 holes for the bolts where the cover goes in. If you flip it over, you've got a nut on each side that goes on the underside, so you need to make sure you've got the 4 holes visible on the intercooler. This bit can get quite tricky, just to try and get it all in the boots on both sides. You've kind of got to bend it and try and fit it in. Can be a bit fiddly. Yeah, so we had to cut it off. It was taking a lot longer. Well, it always takes long to try and do this bit because it's really fiddly. So I put the bigger end in first on the boot and on the horn, and you just want to kind of push it all the way into the boot as far as you can. And if you just get this side in on the horn first, and then hold the top of the boot like that, push it towards the other side, and then just try and wiggle it down. And then you're just trying to basically pry the boot so that it comes back over. So that's in now, and this boot just needs to come back down. That's your intercooler back in. So now you obviously want one clip on one side of the boot and one clip on the other side. So just get them lined up. Get your bit that goes over the top. One bit's got the 2 ridges on that side, so that will go into that one with a hole in it, and then it'll be the opposite on the other side. And just get your bolts. Slide them in. And you just want to pinch it at the back so the thread goes all the way through to the bottom. I'll just do them all up loosely like that, just so you've got the bolt in the right position first. So again, now you put the bolts in, just make sure it's in the right position, it's not overhanging the boot, so it's definitely in the right place. Then hold it in place as you're doing the final tightening. So on the small side, same theory. The flat shiny bit is obviously where the bolt hole was. So just poke the bottom bit underneath like that. Wiggle it over so it's in position. And just hold it so it'll slide out otherwise. And just put your bolt in. Just do a couple of turns to make sure it's definitely biting on the underneath the bracket. Same on the bottom. Slide the other bracket under. Same thing again. I'm just going to move them into position like that and then just do them up. So just moving the brackets back into place now. So you've got 2 10s, another 10 and an 8. So just going to knit them all up. So now we're just putting the engine cover back on. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, keep an eye out for the future videos coming up very soon. Don't forget to check out our other videos as well. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.